Hello YouTube, and thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Can we acknowledge the fact that it's almost been 2 months that I have been gone? So in this video, I'm not going to be acknowledging the reason for my absence or my silence or for my hiatus because I'm still not comfortable yet talking about it, but I will be addressing it in a later video. I just wanted to say to everyone I hate speaking in codes, but for everyone who does know, thank you for your support, thank you for your love, thank you for your encouragement. You know, you guys were there for me when a lot of my own friends couldn't be there for me. You know what I mean? When a lot of my own family couldn't be there for me, and you guys were there for me, so that means so much. So I don't want to get sad now. Like, I wasn't actually going to make a video. Like, but last night, I was watching one of the best lives I've ever seen in my entire life. So I was watching, like, Leah Bad, and oh my gosh, I've lost so much weight. I literally, before I get into this video, I have lost so much weight. I went from, like, I'm, like, literally doing Ashley Olsen vibes. But it's cool. All of those pounds I lost, I will get every one of them back. Anyways, back to the video. So, I was watching this live, and it was Leah and Raven Nova. And y'all know how I go hard for my girl Leah. So, I love watching other trans women talk on YouTube and talk about their experiences, because being trans has often been a very alienating experience, and more often than not, people around me didn't understand what was going on, so I felt very alone in it. So whenever I turn on YouTube or I turn, like, Instagram or something and I see a trans person talking and I can relate to it, like, it makes me feel so good. Girl, that moment live, though, I was, like, howling. It was so good. So within the trans community, being passable is often linked with this idea of worthiness or being desirable or being valued. There's this idea that within the LGBTQ plus community, to be considered as a proper trans person or a good trans person or an inspirational trans person, you need to have reached a level of passability where most people would not know that you are trans. No one would know that you're trans. That often is considered as being, wow, okay, like, you're one of, you're fish, you're it. Now the problem is that ain't never gonna happen, because they actually did a study to see how gender identity, biological sex, all plays in with your preconceived notions. And they basically took these people, and I actually did a test myself where I wanted to see if I could tell if the original person was male or female. So they took all these, like, people, and they showed a picture of them in their birth gender, and then they showed them as, if it was a man, they showed them as a woman, but they didn't tell you if the person was trans or not, or what the original picture was. And you know what? I could clock all of them. All of those people, it was so crazy. All of those people, if you had said to me, this person was a trans man, I would have said, yes, I can see it. If you had said they're a trans woman, I'd said, yes, I can absolutely see it. Now, their faces were obviously digitally changed and enhanced and all of that. So the study actually showed that for most people, passability, and this is something that I've known for myself, passability is something that is in your head. There is no way, and you know this for yourself, that you can walk down the street and be all kinds of beautiful and be all kinds of wonderful, and 6 minutes after talking to you, the guy is all like, oh, like, I could tell you was a man anyways, and this, that, and the other. It doesn't work that way. So this idea of passability plays into this idea of we need to find love, and we need to, in order for your transition to be successful, you must have a man of consequence. Girl, make it make sense. So like, and a lot of us view successful transitions or successful trans women as women who have found love and are passable and they're living out in society. And it makes us compete with each other. Fun fact, a lot of DL men, they capitalize on the fact that we're competing with each other, and they capitalize on our insecurities, and that is why they play all these games. So as I was watching this video, I thought of my own dating preferences. I thought about, like, if they changed and how they changed. Now, all throughout my 20s, I only dated white men. Like, yeah, I'm definitely attracted to white men, but I can safely say that I'm far more attracted to black and mixed race men, because there is a level of familiarity there. But let's go back to white dudes. So all throughout college, like I was running through these European men like Caster Semenya in the Olympics, girl. Like, what's that girl's name? Shakuri in the Olympics, like that. Like, I was running through these men. And the weird thing is, like, there was always a sense of, because I would always find myself in interracial relationships. So there was always a sense of, like, girl, you feel so special. You know what I mean? Like, you feel, sorry, like, I can't, I love playing with my hair. I just can't stop. When you're in an interracial relationship and you're the girl, in that relationship, you kind of feel special, or at least I did. I felt like I was this, you know, like, cool, hip, like girl who was so, like, cosmopolitan, and she was dating, like, Italians and Greeks, and it was fun. It was definitely fun. But here's my issue with dating white men, and I've said this before in previous videos, and I'll say it again. The microaggressions get too much within their communities, because especially here in South Africa, you date a South African white guy, and you know he has an aunt and uncle that don't care nothing for no black people. So it's just one of those things. You know, I often found myself being subjected to racism time and time and time and time and time and time and time again. And it would honestly be taxing on my mental well-being. It was very, very taxing. It destroyed my self-esteem. Like, I'll be honest, going through these white guys, it might sound like something exciting and nuanced, but it really is not. It really is not. Sorry, I thought that was my nephew. It really is not. It's like any other relationship. It's just that we've somehow made it special because it's a black person and a white person. So there was always that. There was always these little microaggressions, they would always have racist friends. There would always be one friend in the mix, Johan or whoever, who didn't care nothing about no black people. And I will say this though, the one thing I've always loved about dating white guys is the way they're very, very attentive. They're very, very attentive. And there's certain characteristic traits that we somehow have placed onto them, which is completely unfair. But we often like associate sensitivity with them taking care of you, with them like just being I don't know, more open to who you are. And I'll be honest, a lot of white guys do seem more open. Now, so I dated white guys throughout my 20s, but that does not mean I did not see black guys. And that does not mean I didn't hook up with a black guy every now and again. Because there's no way that could have not happened. You know what I mean? With black guys, like, I love the fact that there is cultural familiarity. There's a sense of familiarity that you like see with them that you just don't have. And I'll never forget, there was this one time, girl, this is when I was still a Christian. So I was in the church house. I meet this boy, and he's black, of course. And, you know, we're talking, and he's talking about, like, God and everything. And I'm like, hallelujah, all of that. And just being super, 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 super friendly. And, you know, he gets my number, and he asks me out. And ordinarily, I would have said no. Like, I always say no to guys when they ask for, like, to get to know me. I'm always, like, always have these walls put up. But there was something about him, like, there was a sensitivity that I saw in him. So, we go on the date, girl. We literally go on the date. And I don't know, it was just so amazing. Like, I just had such an incredible time, and it was actually kind of nice to be with somebody who didn't think less of black people because they were black themselves. It was nice because, like, I've always, and I hate to say this, I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but I've always felt like I had to prove that I was one of the good ones. I had to prove that I was one of the good black people. I had to prove that I was a palatable black person. I had to somehow make myself into a token to make white people more comfortable. And I was sitting with this guy, like this black dude from the church house. From the church house. And there was just this level of comfortability that I've seldom seen in my relationships. And I'll never forget, we were like holding hands and going to church. No, where were we going? We weren't going back to the church because this was on a different day, but we were like holding hands. And oh my gosh, like I had like the best time, but it was also sad because I knew that after that day I could not entertain a relationship with that boy. Like, I had to stop it immediately because he did not know that I was trans. He's from the church house. Of course he didn't know I was trans. So, like, I needed to exit myself from that situation. Blitzfinnig, girl. Blitzfinnig. So, and, like, the reason I would do things like that, like, I would meet guys and we'd have a serious connection and I would just ghost them. The reason I would only do this to black guys is because I know this is going to sound extremely problematic. Extremely problematic. And anti-black is all hell. But that black dude that's what your killer is gonna look like. Unfortunately, trans women of color have a higher rate of being murdered by their intimate lovers who happen to be men of color. We're the ones dying. You can tell we're the ones dying by how thin I've gotten. But I digress. So like, for the longest time, I just stayed away, because I just thought that, like, number one, if you date a black guy, like, he probably grew up religious, so his family is probably Christian. There's probably some elements of homophobia. He has probably more than like 15 like racist and not racist, transphobic, homophobic, and like, there are 15 people in his family that just aren't gonna like you ever. So it's just always like, whenever I would meet a black guy and he'd be cute and I'd be interested, I would just think, I don't want to deal with y'all's family. I do not want to deal with your friends. And I know that a lot of black guys have not resolved within themselves what they feel for us. They act very, very impulsively, and they want to blame you for it. Make it make sense. They'll find you attractive, sleep with you, and then they want to go crazy because they're like, oh my gosh, does that mean that I'm gay now? Like, I need to get rid of this heifer because everybody, like, the secret's gonna be out. And that's how we end up dying. You know what I mean? So, let me just pause. Hey, you guys. Sorry I had to pause the video. But the point that I'm trying to make, and I may have lost my train of thought, but for us as black trans women, we often do not date within our own race, primarily out of fear, primarily out of self-preservation, because we've seen how, like, these guys, listen, they will blame you because they want you. And you know they're going to overpower you. Now the problem is, black society often, or society as a whole, but it seems to be more prevalent amongst church-going black folks, that they will think that, I seduced him, I tricked him, I must have done something, I should have been out here tricking, that's why I got. You know what I mean? So for that reason, in my 20s, I just stayed away from black and colored guys, and it was always so sad. Like, even Indian guys I would stay away from, because I was just kind of like, your family is gonna be conservative, and I'm not here for that. So yeah. Like, but now, like, I think I've sort of, like, shifted, because I think for the longest time in my transition, it was always like, well, who am I going to be with? And I think so many of us ask ourselves that question, and it becomes such a primary, fundamental question. And I'm really good at being alone. Like, really, 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 really. I grew up with a single mom. My dad died when I was a kid. But for the longest time, I kept asking myself, why do I, like, who am I going to be with? And that has placed me in terrible, 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 terrible situations, because all but one of my exes, all but maybe one, the rest of them, like, I would never, ever, ever, ever. I would never, ever, ever, ever. And it's so crazy now that I actually think, and this kind of makes me sad, that there were some guys, especially when I was really, really young and really, really insecure, that I went for that I was not even attracted to. It was just the game. It was just the adventure. It was just the concept, the idea of being publicly declared and accepted and wanted. That spoke more volumes to me than whether or not I was interested in the guy. And I think this happens more often than not. But anyways, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again, and bye.